The Galactic War Council chamber fell silent as the human representative stepped forward. Around the circular table, beings from 17 different species watched with barely concealed amusement. Some clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. Others simply stared with multiple eyes gleaming with condescension. The machinations. You want us to approve this? High Chancellor Vex Thor held up the human battle plan as if it were contaminated. His scales rippled with colors that every species in the room recognized as mockery. Commander Sarah Chen stood her ground, her jaw set. Yes, Chancellor, this strategy will end the Krell invasion within 6 months. The chamber erupted in what could only be described as interstellar laughter. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea that in just 3 weeks they would be begging humanity to implement every single insane strategy they were about to reject. This is the story of how the Galactic Council learned that human military doctrine isn't just different, it's terrifyingly effective. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm your host, and we dive deep into the most incredible HFY stories. Tales of humanity proving that we're not just survivors, we're innovators, warriors, and sometimes the galaxy's most unpredictable wild card. Today's story is special. It's about the moment when the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy realized that their thousands of years of military tradition meant nothing compared to human creativity, adaptability, and our absolute refusal to play by anyone else's rules. Before we jump in, if you enjoy stories about humanity showing the galaxy what we're really made of, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps the algorithm share these stories with other HFY fans. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We've got some incredible stories coming your way. Now, let's get into it. This is the story of Commander Sarah Chen, the Galactic War Council, and the day everything changed. The Galactic War Council met in a space station that orbited no planet, belonged to no single species, and existed solely as neutral ground for the 17-member races of the Concordat. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a massive sphere where each species delegation sat in environmental pods suited to their biology. The Zephyrians, with their crystalline bodies, occupied pods filled with methane gas. The Throck, massive bear-like creatures, sat in high-gravity chambers. The Valkyrie, aquatic beings, floated in pressurized water tanks. And the humans? Well, the humans sat in simple chairs, breathing regular air, looking remarkably ordinary compared to the exotic species around them. Commander Sarah Chen had been chosen to present humanity's strategic proposal for one simple reason. She was the only human officer who had actually bothered to learn the cultural protocols of all 17 species. She knew which gestures were offensive to whom, which colors triggered aggressive responses in which species, and most importantly, she knew how to read the room. Right now, the room was reading as deeply unimpressed. Let me understand this correctly, High Chancellor Vex Thor said, his translator converting his hissing speech into standard galactic. Your proposal is to retreat? Sarah nodded calmly. Strategic withdrawal to predetermined positions, yes. A ripple of disbelief passed through the chamber. Admiral Kresh of the Throck delegation slammed one massive paw against his console. The Concordat does not retreat. We have held the line against the Krell for 3 years. We do not give ground. You've held the line, Sarah agreed, and lost 17 colonies, 400 ships, and approximately 2 billion civilians in the process. The chamber fell silent. The numbers were accurate, and everyone knew it. Sarah continued, her voice steady. The Krell fight in a predictable pattern. They mass their forces, overwhelm a position through sheer numbers, then consolidate before moving to the next target. Your strategy has been to meet them head-on at every engagement. As honor demands, Kresh roared. As tradition demands, Sarah corrected gently. But the Krell don't care about your honor. They care about winning, and right now, they're winning. High Chancellor Vex Thor leaned forward. And you believe retreat will somehow change this? Not retreat. Strategic repositioning. Sarah activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. A three-dimensional map of the war zone appeared, showing Concordat territory in blue and Krell-occupied space in red. The red was steadily encroaching on the blue. The Krell advance in a predictable pattern because you've trained them to, Sarah explained. Every time they mass forces, you mass forces to meet them. Every time they push, you push back. You're fighting their war on their terms, using their preferred tactics. What would you have us do? Asked Speaker Zin of the Velkari, her translated voice bubbling through her water tank. Allow them to take our worlds unopposed? No, Sarah said. I would have you take their worlds instead. The holographic display shifted and Sarah began outlining the human strategy. As she spoke, the expressions or their alien equivalents of the council members shifted from amusement to confusion to outright disbelief. Phase 1. We evacuate all non-essential personnel from the forward colonies. We make it look like a panicked retreat. We leave behind just enough military presence to make it believable, but not enough to actually hold the positions. Madness, muttered one of the Zephyrian delegates, their crystalline form chiming with agitation. Sarah ignored the interruption. The Krell will do what they always do, mass their forces and attack. But this time, we won't be there in the numbers they expect. They'll take the colonies with minimal resistance. You want to give them our colonies? Admiral Kresh was on his feet now, his massive form trembling with rage. I want to give them a trap, Sarah replied calmly. Phase 2. Once the Krell have committed their forces to occupying these colonies, we hit them where they're weak, their supply lines. The display shifted again, showing the long, vulnerable supply routes the Krell would need to maintain their newly captured territories. The Krell Empire is vast, but it's also overextended. Every colony they take requires resources to hold, supply lines to maintain, and forces to garrison. Right now they can do this because they're taking colonies one at a time, consolidating, then moving on. But if they suddenly have to hold 15 colonies simultaneously, all of them deep in hostile territory, all of them requiring constant resupply, they'll be vulnerable. Speaker Zin said slowly, beginning to understand. There'll be bleeding resources, Sarah confirmed. And that's when we implement Phase 3, deep strike operations. Small, fast attack groups hitting their supply convoys, their fuel depots, their communication relays. We don't try to hold territory. We make it impossible for them to hold territory. Guerrilla warfare, said Counselor Thane of the Meridian Collective, one of the few species that had studied human military history. You're proposing we adopt human insurgency tactics. I'm proposing we fight smart instead of fighting hard, Sarah said. The Krell have more ships than we do. They have more soldiers. They have more resources. We cannot win a war of attrition, but we can win a war of exhaustion. High Chancellor Vex Thor studied the display for a long moment. And Phase 4? Sarah's expression hardened. Phase 4 is when they're overextended, undersupplied, and demoralized. That's when we hit them with everything we have, not at their forward positions, but at their core worlds. We take the war to them. The chamber erupted in chaos. Absolutely not, Admiral Kresh's voice boomed over the others. This plan is cowardice dressed up as strategy. It's suicide, added another delegate. You're asking us to abandon our people, to let the Krell take our worlds. Temporarily, Sarah interjected, but her voice was drowned out. Amy temporarily switched off all. High Chancellor Vex Thor raised one clawed hand and the chamber gradually quieted. Commander Chen, your creativity is noted. However, the Concordat has military traditions that span millennia. We do not abandon our people. We do not retreat. We do not employ deception and trickery, even if it means losing the war, Sarah asked quietly. We will not lose the war, Vexthor said firmly. We will hold the line, as we always have. The Krell will break themselves against our defenses, as all aggressors eventually do. Sarah looked around the chamber, seeing the same conviction on every face, or facial equivalent. These were species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. They had refined their military doctrines over countless conflicts, and they were absolutely certain that their way was the right way. Respect, Chancellor, Sarah said carefully. The Krell aren't breaking. They're winning. And if you continue with your current strategy, you'll lose this war within 2 years. Your concern is noted, Vexthor said dismissively. However, the Council has made its decision. We will continue our current defensive strategy. We will reinforce the forward colonies and meet the Krell at every engagement. This is the Concordat way. Sarah gathered her materials, her face carefully neutral. Then I hope you're prepared for the consequences. As she turned to leave, Admiral Kresh called out, Commander Chen, humanity is a young species. You have been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. Perhaps when you have the experience of millennia behind you, you will understand why we fight as we do. Sarah paused at the door. Admiral, humanity has been fighting wars for our entire existence. We fought with sticks and stones, with swords and spears, with bullets and bombs, and now with plasma and lasers. We fought on every terrain, in every condition, against every kind of enemy. And do you know what we've learned? She turned to face the Council. The side that adapts wins. The side that clings to tradition loses, every single time. The door slid shut behind her, leaving the Council in uncomfortable silence. What the Council didn't know, what Commander Chen herself didn't know, was that not everyone in that chamber disagreed with her assessment. In the Velkari delegation pod, junior analyst Kira floated in her pressurized tank, her tentacles moving in patterns of deep thought. Unlike her superiors, Kira had spent the last 3 years doing something unusual for a Velkari. She had been studying human military history in depth. The Velkari were an ancient species, their civilization spanning over 50,000 years. They were philosophers, scientists, and diplomats. They were not warriors. When the Velkari went to war, they did so with careful planning, overwhelming force, and strict adherence to the established rules of engagement. But Kira had read about human wars. She had studied their tactics, their strategies, their complete disregard for proper military conduct, and she had come to a disturbing conclusion. The humans were right. As the council session ended and the delegates began to file out, Kira activated her private communication channel to Speaker Zin. Speaker, I request a private audience. Zin's response came through with a note of surprise. Kira, this is highly irregular. What is this about? It's about the human proposal, Speaker. I believe we should reconsider. There was a long pause. The Council has made its decision. The Council is making a mistake, Kira said, her translated voice carrying an urgency that made Zin pause. Come to my quarters, Zin said finally, but this conversation stays between us. An hour later, Kira floated in Speaker Zin's private chambers, her tentacles gesturing animatedly as she presented her research. Look at this, Kira said, projecting a holographic display. This is the human conflict they call World War II. The humans were divided into multiple factions fighting across their entire planet. I'm aware of human history, Zin said patiently. They were a violent species. They were an adaptive species, Kira corrected. Look at this battle. They call it D-Day. One faction had fortified an entire coastline. The other faction needed to invade. By all conventional military logic, the invasion should have failed. The defenders had superior positions, established defenses, and home territory advantage. But the invasion succeeded, Zin said, studying the display. It succeeded because the attackers did something unexpected. They used deception. Fake armies, false intelligence, misdirection. They attacked at a time and place the defenders didn't expect. They used new technology in innovative ways. They adapted their tactics in real time as the situation changed. Kira pulled up another display. And here, the Pacific Theater. The humans were fighting across thousands of islands. Instead of attacking every fortified position, they used what they called island hopping. They bypassed the strongest defenses, took the weaker positions, and cut off the supply lines to the fortified islands, leaving the defenders to wither without support. Xin said slowly. Exactly. It's the same strategy Commander Chen proposed, and it worked. The humans won that war not because they had superior technology or numbers, but because they were willing to think differently. Xin was quiet for a long moment, her tentacles still. The Council will not change its mind. The other species, they have too much pride, too much investment in their traditional methods. Then the Council will lose this war, Kira said bluntly. Speaker, I've run the simulations. If we continue with our current strategy, the Krell will have taken another 20 colonies within 6 months. Within 2 years, they'll be at our core worlds. Commander Chen's prediction was optimistic. What would you have me do? Xin asked. I'm one voice among 17. I would have you do what the humans would do, Kira said. Adapt. The Krell attacked with their usual precision and overwhelming force. They had massed a fleet of over 300 warships at the edge of concordant space, and their target was clear: the Meridian colonies, a cluster of 7 inhabited worlds that represented a significant portion of the Concordat's agricultural production. The Concordat responded exactly as they always had. They massed their own fleet, 250 ships, and moved to intercept. The battle was fierce, lasting for 3 days, and when it was over, the Concordat had lost. Not catastrophically, not in a way that would break their military, but they had lost. The Krell took 4 of the 7 colonies, and the Concordat fleet was forced to retreat to defensive positions around the remaining 3. It was a pattern that had repeated itself dozens of times over the past 3 years. The Krell would attack, the Concordat would defend, and slowly, inexorably, the Krell would gain ground. But this time, something was different. Admiral Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, studying the tactical displays with growing confusion. The Krell had taken the 4 colonies as expected, but their behavior afterward was odd. They're not consolidating, his tactical officer reported. The Krell fleet is splitting up, moving to garrison the captured colonies. That's standard procedure, Kresh said, though something about the situation bothered him. Yes, sir, but they're spreading themselves thin. Each colony has only a small garrison fleet, and their supply convoys are running constantly, much more frequently than usual. Kresh studied the display. The Krell had taken 4 colonies simultaneously, which was unusual. Normally they took 1, consolidated, then moved on. But this time, they had committed to holding multiple positions at once. They're overextending, Kresh muttered. But why? His communication console chimed. It was High Chancellor Vex Thor. Admiral, we've received reports of Krell activity in 3 other sectors. They're launching simultaneous offensives across the entire front. Kresh felt a chill run down his spine. How many sectors? 7. They're attacking 7 different positions simultaneously. That's impossible. They don't have the resources to... Kresh stopped, realization dawning. They are changing their tactics. It appears so, Vextor said grimly. Prepare your fleet for immediate deployment. We need to reinforce. Which sector? Kresh interrupted. If they're attacking 7 positions, we can't reinforce all of them. There was a long pause. Prioritize the core worlds. We'll have to let some of the outer colonies fall. After the communication ended, Kresh stood in silence, staring at the tactical display. The Krell were doing exactly what Commander Chen had predicted the Concordats should do, spreading out, forcing the enemy to divide their forces. creating multiple crisis points that couldn't all be addressed simultaneously. The humans had been right. Commander Sarah Chen sat in the human delegation's quarters on the Concordat station, reviewing intelligence reports. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, entered with a grim expression. "The Krell offensive is in full swing," Marcus reported. 7 sectors under attack simultaneously. The Concordat is scrambling to respond. Sarah nodded slowly. "Casualties? Everything." "The Concordat is trying to defend everything, which means they're defending nothing effectively. They're losing ground across the board. And our forces? Standing by as ordered. The Concordat hasn't requested our assistance." Sarah leaned back in her chair. "They won't. Not yet. They're still convinced they can handle this with traditional tactics." "How long do we wait?" Marcus asked. "Until they're desperate enough to listen," Sarah said. "I don't like it any more than you do, but we can't force them to accept our help. They have to ask. And if they don't ask in time?" Sarah's expression hardened. "Then we implement the contingency plan, with or without their approval." It took 2 more weeks. 2 weeks of steady Krell advances, of concorded colonies falling one after another, of casualty reports that grew more horrific by the day. The Krell had taken 18 colonies in total, and they showed no signs of stopping. The Galactic War Council convened in emergency session. This time, the atmosphere was very different from the last meeting. There was no mockery, no condescension, only fear and desperation. High Chancellor Vex Thor looked like he had aged years in just weeks. His scales had lost their luster, and his movements were slow, weary. "The situation is critical," he announced without preamble. "The Krell have taken 18 colonies. Our fleet strength is down by 30%. Our supply lines are strained, and intelligence suggests they're preparing for another major offensive." "We need reinforcements," Admiral Kresh said. "We need to pull back our forces, consolidate our defenses." "We need the humans," Speaker Zen interrupted. The chamber fell silent. "I beg your pardon," Vextor said. Zin's tentacles moved in patterns of firm resolve. 3 weeks ago, Commander Chen presented a strategy that we rejected. She predicted exactly what would happen if we continued with our traditional tactics. She was right. We were wrong. It's time we admitted that, and asked for their help. "The humans are a young species," one of the Zephyrian delegates protested. "They lack the experience." "They lack our traditions," Zin interrupted. "And right now, that's exactly what we need. Our traditions are killing us." Admiral Kresh slowly rose to his feet. "I agree with Speaker Zin. I never thought I would say this, but the humans understand warfare in a way we don't. They fight to win, not to maintain honor. And right now, we need to win." One by one, the other delegates voiced their agreement. Finally, High Chancellor Vex Thor nodded slowly. "Very well. Send for Commander Chen." Commander Sarah Chen stood before the War Council once again, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. Every delegate leaned forward, listening intently. No one laughed. No one dismissed her words. "Thank you for reconsidering," Sarah said simply. "I know this wasn't an easy decision." "Commander," Vex Thor said, "we are prepared to implement your strategy. All of it. We place our forces under human tactical command." Sarah nodded. "Then we need to move fast. The Krell think they're winning, and in the short term they are. We're going to let them keep thinking that while we prepare the real offensive." She activated the holographic display. "First, we need to complete the evacuation of the forward colonies. I know you've already begun pulling back, but we need to accelerate it. Every civilian, every piece of valuable equipment, everything that can be moved needs to be relocated to the core worlds. The Krell will see this as a full retreat," Admiral Kresh noted. "Good. Let them. The more confident they are, the more they'll overextend." Sarah zoomed in on the Krell supply lines. Second, we begin the harassment campaign. Small, fast strike groups hitting their supply convoys. Nothing big enough to make them change their strategy, just enough to make them bleed resources. Guerrilla warfare, Counselor Thane said. Exactly. We have the advantage here. We know this territory. They don't. We use that. Sarah pulled up another display. Third, we start preparing for the deep strike. I need your best special operations teams, your fastest ships, and complete operational security. No one outside this room can know what we're planning. What are we planning? Vexthor asked. Sarah's smile was cold. We're going to cut the head off the snake. The first human-led operation launched 3 days later. A small fleet of 12 ships, a mix of human and Concordat vessels, dropped out of FTL near a Krell supply convoy. The convoy was heavily guarded with 6 warships, escorting 20 cargo vessels. By traditional Concordat tactics, 12 ships would never engage 18. The odds were unfavorable, and honor dictated that you only fought when you had a reasonable chance of victory. But the human commander, Captain James Rodriguez, wasn't interested in honor. He was interested in results. L-ships, target the cargo vessels only, Rodriguez ordered. Ignore the warships unless they get in your way. We're in and out in 3 minutes. The attack was brutal and efficient. The strike force dropped out of FTL, unleashed a devastating barrage of missiles and plasma fire at the cargo ships, and jumped back to FTL before the Krell warships could effectively respond. In less than 3 minutes, 15 of the 20 cargo vessels were destroyed or crippled. The Krell warships gave chase, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. They led the Krell on a chase through an asteroid field, then jumped to FTL and disappeared. Total Concordat losses: 0 ships, minor damage to 3 vessels. Total Krell losses: 15 cargo ships and the supplies they carried. It was the first of dozens of such raids. Over the next 2 weeks, human-led strike forces hit Krell supply lines across 7 sectors. They didn't try to hold territory. They didn't engage in prolonged battles. They struck fast, hit hard, and disappeared before the Krell could respond. The effect was devastating. The Krell had conquered 18 colonies, but now they couldn't supply them properly. Garrison forces went on half rations. Equipment broke down and couldn't be repaired. Morale plummeted. And the Krell command, used to fighting enemies who stood and fought, had no idea how to respond to an enemy who refused to engage on their terms. While the harassment campaign kept the Krell off balance, Commander Chen was preparing the real blow. She had assembled a strike force of 50 ships, the best and fastest vessels from both human and Concordat fleets. Their target? The Krell home system. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. The Krell home system was deep in enemy territory, protected by multiple defensive fleets and orbital defense platforms. No Concordat force had ever penetrated that far into Krell space. But Sarah wasn't planning a conventional attack. "We're not going to fight our way in," she explained to the strike force commanders. "We're going to sneak in." She pulled up a star map showing the route to the Krell home system. The Krell have been at war for 3 years. They're used to threats coming from the front lines. They're not expecting an attack from deep in their own territory. "How do we get there without being detected?" Admiral Kresh asked. He had insisted on commanding one of the Concordat vessels in the strike force, wanting to see human tactics firsthand. "We use their own supply routes," Sarah explained. The Krell have been running constant supply convoys from their core worlds to the front lines. We're going to hide in plain sight, disguise our ships as a supply convoy, and follow the route back to the home system. "They'll scan us," one of the Concordat captains protested. "They'll know we're not Krell ships." "Not if we're broadcasting the right identification codes," Sarah said. "Which we will be, thanks to the codes we captured during the harassment raids." It was a plan that violated every principle of Concordat military doctrine. It relied on deception, on disguise, on trickery. It was, by Concordat standards, dishonorable. It was also brilliant. The strike force assembled at a staging point just outside Krell territory. The ships had been modified to match Krell energy signatures as closely as possible, and they were broadcasting captured identification codes. "All ships, this is Commander Chen." Sarah's voice came through the fleet-wide channel. "Remember, we maintain the disguise until we reach the home system, no matter what happens, no matter what we see. We do not break cover until we're in position. Understood?" A chorus of acknowledgements came back. The fleet jumped to FTL, following the captured navigation data from Krell supply ships. They emerged at the first waypoint, a refueling station on the edge of Krell territory. "We're being hailed," the communications officer reported on Sarah's ship, the Defiant. "Respond with the authentication codes," Sarah ordered. "Keep it brief." The exchange lasted less than 30 seconds. The Krell station accepted their credentials and directed them to the next waypoint. They jumped again and again, following the supply route deeper into Krell space. At each waypoint they were challenged, and at each waypoint the stolen codes got them through. Admiral Kresh, watching from his ship, felt a mixture of admiration and unease. This kind of deception was so foreign to concordant thinking that it felt almost wrong, but he couldn't deny the effectiveness. Finally, after 3 days of travel, they emerged at the edge of the Krell home system. "L ships, battle stations," Sarah ordered. "Drop the disguise. Weapons hot. This is it." The fleet dropped their false energy signatures and powered up their weapons. Alarms immediately began blaring on the Krell defense platforms. "They're launching interceptors," the tactical officer reported. "Estimate 200 fighters inbound." "Vessel ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Sarah ordered. "Target the orbital defense platforms first. We need to clear a path." What followed was the most intense battle any of the Concordat officers had ever experienced. The human ships moved with a speed and aggression that seemed reckless, but every maneuver was calculated, every attack precisely targeted. They weren't trying to destroy the entire Krell defense fleet. They were trying to create chaos, to overwhelm the defenders' ability to respond, to punch through to their real target, the Krell command center on the planet's surface. "Bombers away," reported Captain Rodriguez from his ship. "They're through the defensive perimeter." 6 human bombers, small and fast, dove toward the planet's surface. They were loaded with a new type of weapon, not nuclear, not antimatter, but something the humans called an EMP bomb, electromagnetic pulse weapons that would disable electronics without causing mass casualties. The bombers reached their target, the massive command complex that coordinated all Krell military operations, and released their payload. The effect was immediate and devastating. Every electronic system in a 100-kilometer radius went dark. Communications, computers, defense systems, all of it shut down in an instant. "Target neutralized," Rodriguez reported. "The Krell command network is offline." "All ships, withdraw," Sarah ordered. "We've done what we came to do. Let's get out of here before they recover." The strike force jumped to FTL, leaving behind a Krell home system in complete chaos. The effect of the deep strike rippled across the entire warfront. With their command network disabled, the Krell forces at the front lines suddenly found themselves without coordination, without orders, without the centralized control they relied on. The Concordat forces, following human tactical doctrine, immediately pressed the advantage. They launched coordinated attacks across all 7 sectors, targeting the now isolated Krell garrison forces. Without supplies, without reinforcements, and without orders, the Krell garrisons began to collapse. Some surrendered, others retreated. Within 2 weeks, all 18 captured colonies had been retaken. The war wasn't over. The Krell would eventually restore their command network and regroup. But the momentum had shifted. The Concordat was no longer on the defensive, and every species in the galaxy had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate human military strategy. In the aftermath of the successful offensive, junior analyst Kira found herself in an unusual position. She was being praised by the same superiors who had dismissed her concerns weeks earlier. "Your analysis was correct," Speaker Zin told her in a private meeting. "The humans' unconventional tactics were exactly what we needed." "With respect, Speaker," Kira said. "I wasn't just correct about the tactics. I was correct about our fundamental approach to warfare. We've been fighting the same way for thousands of years because it's tradition, not because it's effective." Zin's tentacles moved in patterns of acknowledgement. "You're right, and that's why I'm recommending you for a new position. The Council has decided to establish a joint Concordat Human Tactical Analysis Division. We need officers who can think like the humans do, who can see beyond our traditions and adapt to new situations." "You want me to work with the humans?" Kira asked, surprised. "I want you to learn from them," Zin corrected, "and then teach the rest of us. This war isn't over, Kira. The Krell will adapt, and we'll need to adapt faster. The humans have shown us that's possible. Now we need to make it part of who we are." Kira felt a surge of excitement. "I accept, Speaker. When do I start?" "Established immediately. Commander Chen has agreed to take you on as a liaison officer. You'll be working directly with the human tactical teams." Kira's first meeting with Commander Chen took place in the Human Delegation's Tactical Center. The room was filled with holographic displays, data streams, and human officers moving with purposeful efficiency. "Junior Analyst Kira," Sarah greeted her warmly. "Speaker Zen speaks highly of you. She says you were one of the few who understood what we were trying to do." "I studied human military history," Kira explained. "Your species has a remarkable ability to adapt and innovate under pressure." Sarah smiled. "That's a polite way of saying we're unpredictable and don't follow the rules." "It's a compliment," Kira assured her. "The Valkyrie have been spacefaring for 50,000 years. In all that time, we've refined our military doctrine to what we believed was perfection. But perfection, I've learned, is just another word for stagnation." "Now you're thinking like a human," Sarah said approvingly. "Come on, let me show you what we're working on next." She led Kira to a holographic display showing the current war situation. "The Krell are regrouping. They'll be back, and they'll have learned from this defeat. We need to stay ahead of them." "What's the plan?" Kira asked. "That's what I want you to help us figure out," Sarah said. "You know the Krell better than we do. You understand their psychology, their culture, their decision-making processes. We need that insight combined with human tactical thinking." "Correct." Kira studied the display, her mind already racing with possibilities. "The Krell value strength above all else. They respect power. This defeat will have shaken their confidence, but it will also have made them angry. They'll want to prove they're still the dominant force. So they'll come back harder," Sarah said. "Yes, but they'll also be more cautious. They'll expect us to use the same tactics again." Sarah grinned. "Then we'll have to surprise them with something new. That's the beauty of human military doctrine. We never do the same thing twice if we can help it." Over the next several hours, Kira and Sarah worked together, combining Valkyrie analytical precision with human creative chaos. They developed scenarios, tested strategies, and challenged each other's assumptions. For Kira, it was exhilarating. For the first time in her career, she wasn't just following established procedures, she was creating something new. "You know," Sarah said as they took a break, "the Council was wrong to laugh at human strategies. But I understand why they did. We are different. We think differently. We fight differently. We approach problems differently. Different isn't wrong," Kira said. "No," Sarah agreed. "But it takes courage to embrace different. Your people showed that courage when they finally asked for our help. That's not weakness. That's wisdom." The Council's acknowledgement. The Galactic War Council convened once more, but this time, the atmosphere was one of cautious optimism. The recent victories had boosted morale, and for the first time in months, the Concordate forces were advancing, rather than retreating. Carthame's longing grasped that there was something inherently wrong with the way people had been acting since Concordate. High Chancellor Vex Thor stood before the assembly. We are here to formally acknowledge what has become clear to all of us. Our traditional military doctrines, while honorable and time-tested, were insufficient for this conflict. The humans showed us a different way, a more effective way. He turned to where Commander Chen sat with the human delegation. Commander Chen, on behalf of the Galactic War Council, I offer our formal apology for dismissing your strategies. You were right, and we were wrong. More importantly, you were patient enough to wait for us to realize our mistake. Sarah stood and bowed respectfully. Chancellor, there's no need for apologies. Every military force develops tactics based on their experiences and their culture. The Concordate's traditional methods have served you well for millennia. They just weren't suited for this particular enemy. Nevertheless, Vex Thor continued, we wish to formalize our military cooperation. We propose the creation of a joint Concordate Human Strategic Command, with you as its first commander. The chamber fell silent. This was unprecedented. No non-Concordate species had ever been given command authority over Concordate forces. Sarah was quiet for a moment, considering. I'm honored, Chancellor, but I have a counter-proposal. Instead of putting me in command, create a truly joint command structure. Human officers working alongside Concordate officers, learning from each other, combining our different approaches. You don't want sole command? Admiral Kresh asked, surprised. I want something better than sole command, Sarah said. I want collaboration. The reason human tactics worked isn't because they're inherently superior, it's because they were different from what the Krell expected. But if we only use human tactics, eventually the Krell will adapt to those too. We need to keep evolving, keep changing, keep surprising them. And the best way to do that is to combine human creativity with Concordate experience. Speaker Zin's tentacles moved in patterns of approval. A wise proposal, Commander. We accept. The war with the Krell continued, but the nature of the conflict had fundamentally changed. The Concordate forces, now working in close cooperation with human tactical advisors, had adopted a fluid, adaptive approach to warfare. They no longer relied solely on traditional tactics, but they also didn't abandon their heritage entirely. Instead, they learned to blend the best of both approaches. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Strategic Command Station, watching as mixed human Concordate task forces conducted training exercises. The ships moved in formations that would have been unthinkable a year ago, combining Concordate discipline with human improvisation. Junior analyst Kira joined her at the viewport. In the past 6 months, Kira had become one of the most valuable members of the tactical team, her ability to bridge the gap between human and Concordate thinking proving invaluable. The latest reports from the front are encouraging, Kira said. The Krell have attempted 3 major offensives in the past month. All 3 were repelled with minimal casualties on our side. They're learning, Sarah noted. They're adapting to our tactics. And we're adapting to their adaptations, Kira replied. That's the difference now. We're not locked into a single approach. We can change as the situation demands. Sarah nodded. You know, when I first presented that strategy to the Council, I expected them to reject it. What I didn't expect was how completely they would embrace change once they decided to. The Concordate species are old, Kira said. We've been around for a long time, and that gives us wisdom, but it also makes us rigid. You humans reminded us that wisdom without flexibility is just stubbornness. And you reminded us that creativity without discipline is just chaos, Sarah replied. We need both. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the ships maneuver. Do you think we'll win? Kira asked finally. Sarah considered the question. I think we'll survive, and in the long run, survival is the only victory that really matters. The Krell are strong, but they're not adaptable. As long as we keep changing, keep evolving, keep surprising them, they can't beat us. The Council wants to extend the joint command structure beyond just military operations, Kira said. They're talking about joint research initiatives, cultural exchange programs, even combined colonization efforts. Sarah smiled. Good, because the real lesson here isn't about military tactics. It's about the value of different perspectives. The galaxy is a big place with room for many different approaches. The species that recognize that learn from each other instead of dismissing each other, those are the ones that will thrive. The Galactic War Council met for what would be remembered as a historic session. The war with the Krell had reached a turning point. Not an end, but a stabilization. The front lines had solidified, and both sides were now engaged in negotiations for a potential ceasefire. High Chancellor Vex Thor addressed the assembly. 6 months ago, we were losing this war. Today, we stand on equal footing with our enemy. This transformation was made possible by our willingness to learn, to adapt, and to embrace new ideas. He gestured to the human delegation. The humans taught us that tradition, while valuable, should never become a prison. That honor is found not in how we fight, but in why we fight. That the greatest strength is not in refusing to change, but in knowing when change is necessary. Admiral Kresh stood. I was one of the loudest voices opposing the human strategies. I called them cowardice. I called them dishonorable. I was wrong. He turned to Sarah. Commander Chen, you and your people have my deepest respect. You showed us that there are many paths to victory, and the wisest warrior is the one who can walk any path the situation demands. Sarah stood and bowed. Admiral, the respect is mutual. Human tactics worked because they were unexpected, but they wouldn't have worked without Concordat courage and discipline. Your people stood and fought when others would have fled. That's not something that can be taught, it's something that comes from thousands of years of honor and tradition. Speaker Zinn rose. The Council has voted unanimously to make the Joint Strategic Command a permanent institution. Furthermore, we are extending an invitation to humanity to become full members of the Concordat, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. The chamber erupted in applause, or the various alien equivalents thereof. Sarah felt a surge of emotion. Full Concordat membership meant humanity would have a voice in galactic affairs, would be protected by mutual defense treaties, would have access to technologies and resources that had been beyond their reach. On behalf of humanity, Sarah said, we accept. And we promise to bring to the Concordat the same thing we brought to this war, new perspectives, creative solutions, and an absolute refusal to accept that any problem is unsolvable. The historical records would show that the Krell War ended not with a dramatic final battle, but with a negotiated peace treaty signed 2 years after the Joint Command was established. The Krell, unable to overcome the combined adaptive tactics of the Concordat-Human Alliance, agreed to a ceasefire, and eventually to a lasting peace. But the real impact of the war wasn't the peace treaty. It was the fundamental change in how the Concordat species approached problems. The rigid adherence to tradition gave way to a more flexible, adaptive mindset. The dismissal of young species as inexperienced was replaced by a recognition that different perspectives had value. And at the center of it all was a simple lesson that Commander Sarah Chen had tried to teach from the beginning. The side that adapts wins. The Galactic Council had laughed at human strategies. They had dismissed human tactics as crude, dishonorable, and ineffective, until they witnessed the reality. And the reality was that humanity, for all its youth and inexperience, understood something fundamental about warfare that the ancient species had forgotten. There are no rules in survival. There is only what works and what doesn't. The humans had shown the galaxy what worked. and the galaxy would never be the same. And that, my friends, is the story of how the Galactic Council learned to respect human military strategy, from mockery to desperation to partnership. It's a journey that shows what humanity does best. We adapt, we innovate, and we never, ever give up. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. First question. If you were Commander Sarah Chen, what strategy would you have proposed to the Council? Would you have gone with the guerrilla warfare approach, or do you have an even more creative solution? Drop your tactical genius in the comments below. Second question. Which part of the story resonated with you the most? Was it the Council's initial dismissal of human tactics? The subplot with Kira learning to think differently? Or the final battle at the Krell homeworld? Let me know what hit hardest for you. Third question. Do you think the Concordat species were right to be skeptical of human strategies at first? Or should they have been more open-minded from the beginning? I'm genuinely curious about your take on this. And here's a fun one. If you could design one human strategy that would shock the galaxy, what would it be? Get creative, the crazier the better. I'll feature the best answers in next week's video. If you enjoyed this deep dive into human military tactics and want to see more stories like this, smash that like button. It really does help the algorithm share these stories with other HFY fans who would love them. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got more incredible HFY stories coming your way. Tales of humanity, proving that we're not just survivors. We're the galaxy's most unpredictable wildcard. Next week, we're diving into a story about when Deathworlders invaded Earth, the day humanity said not today. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. The galaxy will never look at risk management the same way again. Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember, in a universe full of ancient civilizations with millennia of experience, sometimes the best advantage is being the one who doesn't know what's impossible.